These are the best buttermilk biscuits you will ever make.
First, throw your butter in the freezer for at least 30 minutes, then measure 2.5 cups self-rising flour like this, spooned and leveled. Grate half cup frozen butter on the large holes of a box grater, then add to flour. Mix and then freeze for 10 minutes. Make a well in the center of the flour, then add a cup of buttermilk. Gently stir 15 times. Count them. Turn dough onto a lightly floured surface and pat into a 9x5 rectangle, then fold in half. Repeat 3 more times, then pat to 1 inch thick and cut with a 2.5 inch round cutter. Bake at 475 for 15 minutes, then brush with melted butter. Look at those layers!
This is how you really make classic Southern sweet tea.
Boil 4 cups of water, then pour it into a heat-proof pitcher. Steep 4 family-size or 12 regular-size tea bags for 7 minutes. If you want crystal clear tea,
Hear me out on this one. 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. I know it's weird, but I promise it works. Then stir in a cup of sugar.
stir it all up with 4 cups of ice, and that's the tea.
Cheers, y'all. Y'all like fried chicken? Let's make some.
Soak skin-on chicken pieces in salt, pepper, and buttermilk for 2 hours or up to overnight. Everyone's recipe for fried chicken is different, but I like mixing self-rising flour with paprika, salt, and pepper, putting it in a double-lined paper bag with the chicken, and shaking it like a Polaroid picture. Fry in batches in 330-degree peanut oil, covered for 8 minutes, then uncovered for 8 more. Don't put too many pieces in at once or it won't cook evenly. Now tell me this isn't the best fried chicken you've ever had.
Let's make some real cream corn. Now this is the real way to do it. Get out a corn creamer, a tool made specifically for creamed corn. It cuts the kernels off and then milks the cob so all of the creaminess comes from the corn itself and not some added stuff.
Run the cobs along the corn creamer to release the milk and cut off the kernels, then transfer it to a pot and cook over medium heat until thick. Season with salt, then add a splash of cream and a good hunk of butter. Not too much cream though. Serve, top with chives. Oh, and it's also a great dipper for fried okra, trust me.
This is how you make a real fried green tomato.
Go to your garden and pick one, or if your thumb's not green, buying it's fine too. Slice a 1/3 inch thick. Crack an egg and whisk it with a 1/2 cup buttermilk. Mix a 1/4 cup each plain cornmeal and flour in a bowl with salt and pepper. Then add a 1/4 cup of flour to a bowl by itself. Make one hand dry and one wet and dredge in flour, egg, then cornmeal. Or do it all with both hands and get messy if you like. Fry them in canola oil, turning once. It'll take about 3 minutes total to get golden and crisp. Then sprinkle it with salt.
Don't mind if I do. In the South, a tomato sandwich is always in season.
To make a tomato sandwich, don't even think about using anything other than old-fashioned white bread that sort of sticks to the roof of your mouth when you bite into it. And don't you dare toast it. The condiments, just a ton of mayo. Like both sides of the bread, just when you think you have enough, add some more. And salt and pepper. That's it. If you want to be fancy and add lettuce and bacon, then honey, you've got a good BLT, but that's not a tomato sandwich.
And at the end, if your hands don't look like this and your bread is not this soggy, you did it all wrong. I just made peach ice cream in a jar.
Pour 1 cup of cream, 2 tablespoons of sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, and a pinch of salt in a quart-sized mason jar and shake away. Now would be a really good time to learn a new TikTok dance. When it's as thick as loose whipped cream, add your peaches and freeze for 3 hours or overnight. Yum!
Did y'all know boiled peanuts are the easiest recipe you will ever make?
It's just 3 ingredients: raw peanuts, salt, and water. The amounts depend on the size of your slow cooker. For my 4-quart slow cooker, I use 3/4 pound peanuts, a 1/3 cup of salt, and 8 cups of water. 18 hours on high in the slow cooker, and oh my word, perfectly salty peanuts just like you get at the gas station.
If you're from certain parts of the South, you'll know that this isn't a regular chocolate cake.
This little layer chocolate cake is made up of 18 layers of vanilla cake with a thin layer of chocolate icing spread between each one. Where I'm from in South Georgia, they can range anywhere from 10 to 18 layers, but of course because I'm so extra, I always go for 18. The Smith Island cake in Maryland and the Doberge cake of New Orleans are similar, but this particular recipe can only be found south of the Gnat Line in Georgia. My great-grandmother made this recipe every year for my mom's birthday and increased the layers by 1 for each year. If you're from South Georgia, you've definitely eaten a few of these in your life, and well, if you're not, bless your heart.
There are a lot of ways to make chicken and dumplings, but this way is my favorite.
Start by cooking a whole chicken for an hour over medium-high in a large stock pot with a teaspoon of poultry seasoning, some salt, 2 quarts of chicken broth, and enough water just to cover the chicken. Remove the chicken from the broth, then let it cool and shred it. Season the broth with salt and pepper, then add the shredded chicken back to the broth and bring it up to a simmer. Meanwhile, make the dumplings by combining 3 cups of all-purpose flour, half teaspoon of poultry seasoning, a 1/3 cup of shortening, 2 teaspoons of bacon drippings, and a cup of milk. Knead the dough until it's smooth and then roll it an 8-inch thick and cut it into 1-inch pieces. Thicken the broth by adding a mixture of equal parts cornstarch and water. Add the dumplings to the broth and cook it for 25 minutes before serving. It's just like grandma's or Cracker Barrel's.